too long since we did some baking.
We want to share with you some of the tastes of our childhood. These were the dishes that were served to us by our mums and our grandmas.
We know our favourites, but we would love to know yours.
So we're going to bake all of our favourite puddings. And at the end of the series, you can vote for your favourite.
This year, why don't you join me for the Bakerybear's Pudding Club? So come on, let's get baking!
So, what actually is a pudding? Well, the Oxford Dictionary's definition of pudding is a cooked sweet dish served after the main course of a meal, a sweet or savoury steamed dish made with suet or flour. The word pudding is believed to come from the French boudin, originally from the Latin botellus, meaning small sausage, referring to encased meats used in medieval European puddings. In the UK and some of the Commonwealth countries, the word pudding can be used to describe both sweet and savoury dishes. In the UK, pudding is used as a synonym for a dessert course. Dessert puddings are a rich, fairly homogeneous starch or dairy-based dessert, such as rice pudding, steamed cake mixtures such as treacle sponge pudding, with or without the addition of ingredients such as dried fruit, like you would get in a Christmas pudding. Savoury dishes include Yorkshire pudding, black pudding, suet pudding and steak and kidney pudding. In the United States and some parts of Canada, pudding characteristically denotes a sweet, milk-based dessert similar in consistency to egg-based custards, instant custards or mousses. In Commonwealth countries, these puddings are known as custards or curds if they are egg thickened, blancmange if they're starch thickened, and jelly if gelatin based. Pudding may also refer to other dishes such as bread pudding and rice pudding, although typically these names derive from the origin as British dishes.
Okay, before we get baking, let's just go over what equipment we're going to need, or as I like to say, baking notions. So first of all, we're going to need a steamer. Now don't panic. I think sometimes, these kind of pieces of equipment that we either have never used or something that's in the back of a cupboard that we don't use very often, we can be a bit scared of. There's no need to be scared of it. And this is the one that I got. I just bought it from a local kind of homewares shop, and it basically sits, as you can see, it'll sit on various sizes of pan. So you're bound to have a pan that fits one of these sizes, and I've just got it on top of one here. You want it to fit nice and snug, and it's got a lid, as we can see, and this one's really good because it's got a little steam hole, and that's really useful. I think pretty much all steamers should have a steam hole. And then you can see down in the bottom of the steamer, it's just got a series of holes which allows the steam to rise through and to steam our lovely pudding. Other than that, really, it's just the normal bakery notions. I've got a mixing bowl, just normal mixing bowl, weighing scales, an electric mixer. Not essential, you can do it by hand, but it's much quicker with an electric mixer, and I think generally most people have one of these in their houses, but like I say, if you don't have one, you can just use a balloon whisk. And then the bowl to actually cook your pudding, I'm using a Pyrex bowl. You can get these really pretty pudding basin bowls, so it's entirely up to you. Chances are you will have a bowl somewhere within your kitchen that is the right size. So this is the Pyrex bowl I'm going to be using. So you want this size of a bowl, which is a litre. Takes a litre in volume. And really just check that it fits inside your steamer. Just go through the bowls that you've got in your house, and you want it just to sit nicely like that in the steamer. Lid goes on, no problem. So let's take a look at our ingredients, what we're going to need to make this delicious pudding. So first of all, you're going to need some golden syrup.
If you're in a country where you can't get this easily from a supermarket, I've had a look and you can get it on Amazon. We'll need some self-raising flour, caster sugar, and I think again in other countries this might not be called caster sugar, but it's the very fine white sugar. It's finer than a granulated. We're going to need some eggs. We're going to need 2 eggs, and then either butter or I always use stock to make cakes, and you know, some people might not want to use this because it is a margarine in effect, but it does produce a really light and fluffy sponge. You can use butter if you prefer to use butter, by all means use butter, but I always find butter gives a slightly heavier sponge, which is fine if you know, if you don't mind that and you would prefer to use butter. I always use stock. So the first thing we need to do is we need to take our pudding bowl and we need to butter it generously inside. Now I do use real butter for this, not stock. I always use just a little knob of real butter. And we want to give it quite a nice coating. And this just stops the sponge from sticking basically. And gives it a nice colour too on the outside. So there we go, nice. As you can see, that's quite a nice thick layer. Okay, so now we need to put our golden syrup in the bottom of our basin, because what's going to happen is this pudding gets turned out the other way up and then the syrup will be on the top of it. So we're going to take our syrup and we're going to use about 3 tablespoons in the bottom. I sometimes just sort of squeeze in as much as I think looks like 3 tablespoons, but really it doesn't matter if it's a bit over. But let's measure it properly this time. So 1, oh, an extra bit went in, we don't mind that. This is the most delicious ingredient. If you've never tried golden syrup, I mean, anybody in this country I think will more than likely have had golden syrup at some time. But it's just so delicious. It's not like maple syrup. If you've never had it, it's nothing like maple syrup at all. It's just really lovely, and traditionally we always used to have it on like pancakes. Maybe a tiny spot more, just because we like it quite syrupy. So that's 3 tablespoons-ish into the bottom of your bowl, and I'm not going to lick that however much I want to. So let's just set that to one side now. That's ready for our sponge mixture. So whilst we're preparing now the sponge mixture, turn your steamer on. You want about 2 inches of water in the bottom of the pan that's on the bottom of your steamer, if you understand that. And then just get the water to simmering point, because it wants to always be at that simmering point, never boiling. Just wants that gentle little simmer the whole way through. So I've turned it on and that's heating up. So now we can do our sponge. Now first of all we need to just measure in the flour, the butter and the sugar. Now it's equal measures of all of those, and it's 4 ounces, which is about 114 grams if you would rather measure it in grammage. I'm an old school ounce kind of baker. 4 ounces of flour. Don't bother sieving it. Some people probably would. I don't bother. And then the same of caster sugar. 4 ounces. And then the same of your butter or baking margarine spread. If you're using butter, real butter, make sure that it's room temperature, you know, that it's not cold from the fridge. 4. And then we want 2 eggs into there. That's 1 and 2. So it's really simple, everything in together, no messing, no fuss. And now all we need to do is beat all that together. So I'm going to use an electric whisk. You can just use a balloon whisk if you don't have an electric one. But we just basically want to whisk it until it looks pale and light and fluffy. Halfway through, I just get a spatula and just bring all those little bits in, you see, that haven't mixed. Just bring them all in. to make sure that everything gets incorporated. Okay, so there's our mixture. It's lovely and pale and light and fluffy and ready to go on top of our syrup. So all we're going to do, don't panic when you think I'm going to put that on top of the syrup. It won't all mix together. You might think it will, but it doesn't. So we're just going to take blobs of our lovely mixture and just drop it gently on top. Go around. And just cover all that syrup. See, we're just dropping it on, we're not messing with it or anything. You just want to make sure that you've covered all of that syrup. And now all we're going to do is just gently smooth out the surface, just level it off. And make sure that we can't see any syrup. So we've covered all the syrup there, and then just go around and gently smooth off the surface. So we've encased all that lovely syrup. Let's get that last bit off, don't want to waste any. So now we need to cover it, ready for steaming. Now traditionally, you would put a baking parchment on there and tie string around it. I find that just using tin foil works absolutely fine, and you don't have the fuss of tying string around the outside. So what I've got here is a piece of tin foil, and what I did, I gave it a little pleat, if you can see. So I got a square of tin foil, I put a pleat in the middle of it, and then I put it on top of the basin just to get the shape, as you can see there, and then I just sort of trimmed off the excess. You do want a couple of inches all around the edge so that you can tuck it down nicely. The pleat is just to allow for expansion inside. If you want to put some string around it as like an extra security, then you can, but I've never found it necessary. As long as your foil comes, you know, a nice way down your pudding basin, you'll be absolutely fine. And this is just to make sure that the heat stays inside of your pudding and is not escaping. So all we need to do now is pop that into your steamer. Make sure that your water is at simmering point, and just so I always put it on my smallest kind of burner on top of my hob on the lowest setting, and I find that that just keeps it nicely simmering. Check your water level kind of halfway through the cooking just to make sure it's not steaming dry, boiling dry, and just top it up if it is, but keep it at that simmering point. And you want to steam it for about an hour and a half. Okay, let's talk custard. Now, you can buy custard, absolutely you can buy it, but what I will say is there really is no comparison, in our opinion, between a bought custard and a homemade custard. And I think it might seem that it's just too much of a fuss to make it, but it's actually really simple. And I think a lot of things are, you know, I think mentally you think, oh my goodness, that's just way too complicated to make. But actually it's not at all. And it's something that you can, you know, you can make a big volume of it, and it will keep happily in the fridge for, you know, 2-3 days, and you can just reheat portions whenever you need it. Or you can actually serve it chilled. I know that in one of the Delia books, she says that if you've got a hot pudding, so for example if you had a hot apple pie, you could put chilled custard with it. And I think that difference between hot and cold is always really nice, isn't it? Because you normally have hot pies with ice cream, and I think it's a similar kind of thing. So just to show you kind of what I mean by bought custard. Now you can buy fresh pots of custard in supermarkets these days, that's very popular, and we have had those, and they're generally very nice. I think they're very nice. Dan kind of turns his nose up a bit at them, I think they're very nice. But I usually keep also just some ambrosia custard in tins in the cupboard. It's kind of like emergency custard, you know, in case you really desperately have got to have a pudding.
and you just don't have the time to do the custard, then, you know, I always keep some ambrosia in. This is the light version, the kind of low-fat version. I don't mind this. Dan's not keen, but I don't mind it. But, you know, the ingredients that are in it really, you know, they're not the same as when you make it. There's no eggs in here, and you know, you do use eggs to make real custard. There's no cream in it, it's skimmed milk, you know, so it's not going to taste the same. That's my point, really. And I would say just give it a go one time and just to see what the difference is. Right, so let's just whiz round our ingredients that we're going to need for the custard. So first of all, we're going to need some cream. I'm using single cream. You can use double cream if you prefer. This is like a lighter cream, it's thinner, and then a double cream is a thicker cream. But I'm just going to use single cream. We're going to need 3 egg yolks, so I've got my eggs here. We're going to need a level teaspoon of corn flour. Now this is kind of like the secret ingredient. What corn flour does is it stops it curdling. This is the danger with custard, it can curdle really easily, and this is what puts a lot of people off making it. If you add that little bit of corn flour, even if it looks like it's going to curdle, if you take it off the heat and keep beating, it'll come back to smooth. And then we're going to need some caster sugar again. And then the last thing is some vanilla extract. Make sure when you buy this that it's proper vanilla extract and not those little, you can get those little sort of jars of vanilla essence. Don't get that, that's nasty. Usually there's alcohol in that, and they're just not pleasant at all. You want the pure vanilla extract. This is actually a paste. I buy the kind of paste version, but there is an extract as well. This is just thicker, and you see the little little black seeds in it. So we're going to need a little bit of vanilla extract. So we're going to now heat up our cream. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out the cream. It's 275 mils. Pop it into a saucepan, heat it up on the hob. Now you want to heat it to just boiling point, but not, you know, you don't want it rolling boil, going mad. Just that point where it just starts to boil. That's the temperature that you want it at. So I'll put that on now to heat up. That's 250, I'll need a little bit more. Okay, so whilst your cream is heating up, we're going to mix together the other ingredients. So we're going to need 3 egg yolks, just the yolk, not the white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break the egg, and hopefully this won't be a disaster. That's how I just get the yolk. That's one. And you can, if you want to be really sort of not frugal, but if you want to use everything up, you can always make meringues with your egg whites. 2, 3. And then into your egg yolks, we want to put a level teaspoon of the corn flour. So level teaspoon. And then we want a level tablespoon of caster sugar. There we go. That's our sugar. And then just a couple of drops of the vanilla. I tend to just pour it and just guess it, you know. Just want a little bit. There we go. This is a paste, so you don't actually need as much. If it's an extract, you just need kind of a little bit more. So we just want to mix all that together. And the egg yolks are it's what's going to give the custard its traditional sort of yellowy, golden, pale yellow sort of colour. Okay, so what we're going to do now, our cream is hot and we've mixed our other ingredients. We're going to add the hot cream to the other ingredients, your eggy ingredients. So we're not going to put the egg to the cream, we're going to put the cream into the egg, and then we're going to mix it and put it back in the pan. So let's do that. I keep mixing, and we're going to put it back in the pan. Get everything out, all those little vanilla seeds. And now we're going to heat it until it thickens. This should only take a few minutes. Just keep whisking. And you can see it's just this, it's not the bright yellow colour that you see from shop bought custard. It's just a beautiful, natural, pale, oh, I don't know, well, pale egg yolky colour, isn't it? Even if it looks now, if you were at this point and it looked like it was curdling, take it off the heat and keep beating it and it will come back to smooth. Keep going until it starts to kind of simmer. Once you see it simmering, it's not really going to get any thicker at that point. And using the vanilla bean paste as well means you just get those little, can you see the little vanilla-y speckles? And it's just so pretty. Yeah, I think we're there. So you can see it's just a lovely, if you can see the thickness of it, it's just a beautifully glossy consistency. And ready for our pudding. So we've got our custard ready now. Now you can make that kind of just 10 minutes before your pudding's ready and then just serve it all together, or you can make it in advance, let it cool down and then just gently reheat it, whatever you want to do, or you could have it chilled like I said as well. Okay, so it's had an hour and a half steaming, it's all ready and I'm going to get it out. I've got on my marigolds just because it's obviously hot, so I just put on rubber gloves just to lift it out. So we're just going to take it out. I'll leave my gloves on to turn it out. So take the little foil off. Ooh, lovely. So to turn it out, pop a plate on top and flip. And it just drops. You can see it dropped almost instantly. And then lift it off. Look at that. And I take my gloves off. Oh, I wish you could smell it. Well, you'll be able to smell it when you make it. So you can see that all the syrup on top and that's soaked down into, or it will now drop down and soak down into the sponge. So we're going to cut a piece and have some. I'm just going to have a tiny piece. I hope you can see how lovely. Oh, it's boiling. Okay, so here we go. I'm ready to try it. I'm so excited. I kind of know what it tastes like because I've had it loads before, but I've not had it with this custard. Are we ready? Oh my goodness. It's amazing. It's absolute heaven. I can't even begin to describe to you how delicious this is. It's so simple. I hope you realise just from watching how simple this is to make. Everybody's going to love this. You know, you're going to look like the most amazing domestic goddess when you make this, because it's such an impressive dessert. It's not even a dessert, it's such an impressive pudding, and yet so simple and so delicious, and you've really got to try it. So fantastic. I hope you enjoyed that. So where do we go from here? Well, I will tell you where we go from here. It's Spot and Dick. So I will see you then for more Bakery Bears Pudding Club.